I survived. Here I am. Today's edition of our YouTube channel, I'll be telling you about my experience in French Guiana with the ALVE program. Come along with me. Do you know what it's like to work and travel in a French Caribbean territory? Well, I mean, the sun is darn hot, crazy. But you have so many things that you can do. It's not a country that many people talk about, but I'll be explaining to you some of the interesting things that I did in French Guiana, the people that I met, and how you can do it too. Come on. How did it start? Well, I remember back in 2020 or 2021 when I just arrived from Spain in Jamaica. I had a friend who had done the program in French Guiana because the person was studying in Brazil at the time and they needed urgently some assistance to go to French Guiana to do the job. Of course, this was like the last thing on my list to ever do, and I said, okay, why not? So I did the application process. Okay, yes, we need you like yesterday. And so I had to pack my stuff and get my things in order, that is my visa and also the other necessary things that were of importance at the time. After that, the time came when I had to travel, but mark you, it was still COVID time, and so a lot of things were not really certain. They were still needing for vaccines, and countries had different requirements for entrance. And I remember that at that time, they wanted for us to get a vaccine or two, and so I booked my flight and I got my vaccine, obviously, and also my COVID test. But then something just changed from one day to the next on the French website, where they were saying that they need another vaccine. And so I had planned my trip and everything to go, and so I couldn't change the date, and I couldn't get a date early enough to get the vaccine done in Jamaica. So my trip would start in Jamaica and I would connect through the Dominican Republic and then finally go to, well, not finally, I would go to Martinique and then to French Guiana. So normally the program, the assistantship program in French Guiana or in the French territories, they start in October. And what came as a surprise was, after having my ticket and everything, my flight planned out, I got the news that the program was going to start again in October. And so I had to postpone things for November, since they would have started a month later. Well, this was a dilemma for me because I already had my connecting flights booked and everything, and so to change all of that, it would have taken like hundreds of thousands of Jamaican dollars. So what I did, I went to the Dominican Republic because there I have family. And I stayed there for a month. Being in the Dominican Republic for a month, I was able to do quite a few things and also continue my routine online, as at the time I was studying. So my flight date actually came from the Las Americas airport in Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo, and then I flew to Martinique, and then from Martinique I went to French Guiana. But I have to tell you something that happened during this trip, because it was just adventurous and I was loving it. The fact that I was uncertain of what was going on, it was COVID, and all of this was just really crazy. So when I left the Dominican Republic, my plan was to stay in the airport in Martinique for a day or the night over, because the flight would have been the next day, not knowing that the airport actually closes at a certain time. So what was I going to do? Because I didn't have any Airbnb booked, I didn't have anything really. And if you know the geography of how Martinique is, close to... But if you want to know more about the story, comment Martinique below. So after Martinique, I took a flight the next morning and I went to French Guiana. Reached French Guiana like maybe midday. And then there in French Guiana, I had my prof référent, which is the supervisory teacher, who was waiting for me at the airport. And from there, we went to the city where I was going to teach. So I arrived in Cayenne, which is the capital, and then I had to go to Saint-Laurent-du-Maroni, which is the second capital, and that's in total we did 5 hours of driving. After that, I reached to where I was going to stay, and I was introduced to my school, the members of staff, and all of that. School life was really good. I worked for 12 hours each week, starting with a class early Monday morning, and then we had 2 shifts, or two different types of weeks. So we had week A and week B, and depending on the week, the schedule would have changed or would change. And working with students in French Guiana, it was an experience because it's not too far off from working with children or students in the Caribbean. It was a mixture of, okay, they have the resources from Metropole or from France, mainland France, but they're living in an area that we're all accustomed to, Caribbean, where you see the same things and so on. Life or social life there in French Guiana, it was really good as well. With my other colleagues or the teachers that I worked alongside with, we would go out maybe for an evening walk. We would go on the weekends to the forest. And talking about the forest, there's also a story about that, which I'll share with you subsequently. If you want to hear, you can maybe comment forest, and I will definitely share that story as well. You meet quite a number of people from the United States, from Europe, from Africa. It was a great mix, seeing different assistants from all across the world coming together and doing one job. It was interesting. And even though traversing or moving from place to place there was a challenge, it was fun, and I learned so many things in terms of survival skills, being there, and being more organized. And so all in all, this was a great experience. Of course, I can go on and tell you more about the April period when the turtles would come, and of course I can share pictures subsequently of all of that. The food, going to Suriname, taking the pirogue, the beaches, the color of the water, all of that. It was a new experience totally. And having the Brazilians that were just neighboring coming across, that too was an experience. So all in all, my French Guiana experience, although I went there to work, it was a ball for me, and I learned a great deal. If you have any questions, you can always leave a comment or ask your questions, and I'd be right on with your answers. Like, comment, and share.